If I've learned anything about the Cross franchise so far, it's to never expect consistent good quality. So while I thoroughly enjoyed Badlands Volume 2 Homo Superior with its thrilling story, good characters, and pacing, I knew deep down that my joy was going to be short-lived. A feeling that was reinforced once I saw that Volume 3 was written by the Edgelord Supreme himself, David Laflamme. So color me surprised when, instead of receiving a serving of his usual slop, which consists of a lazily written plot and characters as well as a healthy dose of try-hard, high-quality, fab-grade shock value, David delivered something surprisingly decent. Cross Badlands Volume 3 follows Edmund Wickenthorpe, who is a recent high school graduate and the titular Yellowbelly. Everyone called him that in the 6th grade because he peed his pants once, and they kept calling him that because he legitimately turned out to be a coward, and that's the only thing of note that he did between then and leaving high school. One night, while Edmund's out with his family at the circus, the cross disease hits the town hard, forcing him to fight to survive. Will the cross plague finally make a man out of Edmund, or will he die the same way that he lived, as a Yellowbelly? Just in case you're unfamiliar with my methods, I like to start off with the positives, then head into the negatives, and finally end things off with my final consensus. There will be some spoilers throughout, so if that kind of thing bothers you, then thanks for making it this far. Positive number 1, good artwork. The artwork in this volume, just like every volume before it, is good. It's nothing to write home about or to recommend it for, it's just simple and plain good. Positive number 2, well-executed genre cliches. While Yellowbelly's story and characters are definitely typical of the horror genre, like I've said a million times, it's all about the execution. And thankfully, good old Davey hit the nail right on the head when it came to that. For example, let's look at Edmund. He's your classic sniveling pussy archetype, but written just well enough to where his character traits never become overbearing to the story. As a matter of fact, that's how I felt about this volume as a whole. I've got to hand it to David. I didn't think that he had it in him, but he managed to find a balance between making these familiar archetypes feel like believable characters and then doing disturbing stuff to them later as a payoff. At no point in the story did I feel as if one outweighed the other, and I greatly appreciate that, because that was my number one problem with David's previous cross work. He'd always prioritize shock value over the story and characters, but here they felt equally yoked, as they should be. Positive number 3, Harold. Out of all of the characters in Yellowbelly, even though I don't think that everyone else is bad, Harold is the only one that I actually consider to be good. He only shows up for about 5 or 6 pages in the final issue, but that was all the time that he needed to steal the entire show. Harold as a character was written and utilized so well in Yellowbelly that I completely forgot that I'd seen him in a previous Cross comic. Once I remembered which Cross comic I'd seen him in, that was when I had to really put respect on David Laflamme's name, because he didn't just make me forget any old character from any old Cross comic, but it was the main character of the most disgusting, repulsive piece of dog shit comic book that I'd ever read in my entire life, known as Crossed Volume 3 Psychopath. This volume made me sick to my stomach after reading it, and I'd rather not relive that trauma again, so if you're interested in why it revolted me so much, you can find my review of it on my channel. Back to the nature at hand, I think that Yellowbelly utilized a character like Harold in the best way possible. He came in, did his thing, don't worry, we'll get into exactly what he did in a later segment, made an impact, and then left without overstaying his welcome. Positive number 4, great pacing. None of the above positives would have worked as well as they did if it weren't for Yellowbelly's exceptional pacing. Not a single panel of its 4-issue run felt wasted or as if the story was being drawn out. The plot is laser focused on Edmund's journey, and from start to finish I found it very engaging. All of its action, thrills, and humor felt well balanced, and nothing overstayed its welcome. As far as negatives go, I'm happy to report that I don't have anything solid for Yellowbelly. I guess I could say that its elements could have been better, but I can say that about a lot of stuff that I like. At the end of the day, they're fine just the way they are. To answer the title question, in my opinion, Cross Badlands Volume 3 Yellowbelly is pretty disturbing, but not that disturbing. The first scene happens in issue number 1, right after the Cross disease hits a circus that Edmund, his father, and little brother are attending. His father tells them to hide in some empty barrels while he goes to face off against a cross clown that spotted them trying to get away. He does well against that one, but as fate would have it, other cross see the commotion and decide to join in the fun. They tackle him to the ground, beat him into submission, and take turns moisturizing his esophagus until he turns into one of them. Just in case you thought that wasn't disturbing enough, and like myself at the time, made the mistake of forgetting that this was a David LaFamme comic, Edmund's freshly crossed dad makes his way over to his brother's barrel and does exactly what you think he would do to him. All the while, Edmund, just a foot away, lives up to his call name as he doesn't so much as flinch to help his screaming little brother. He just cowers in fear until he passes out in a puddle of his own tears and piss. The second disturbing scene wasn't much different. After driving home, instead of trying to warn anyone in his town, even his own mother, about what was coming for them, Edmund decided that it was more important that he get his full 8 hours, and balled up at the back of his closet, hugging himself to sleep like the little bitch he was. By the time Edmund woke up from his pussy sleep and finally decided to spill the beans to his mom and the police, who of course don't believe him, it's too late. The insane crossed posse soon show up and they hit his town hard, assaulting everything and everyone in sight. When they get to the Wickenthorpe residence, Edmund's mom immediately tells him to go hide in his closet. Giving in to his yellow belly instincts, Edmund doesn't even try to protest as he runs right back to his closet to get some more piss-filled beauty sleep, leaving his poor mother as a human sacrifice and distraction. The cross take turns brutally assaulting her before gutting her like a fish. The final and by far most disturbing moment in Yellow Belly happens in issue number 4. After Edmund saves but then accidentally blows off the head of fellow resistance member Nicole, thanks to how scared he is, he's driven to the point of thinking that he's just not cut out for the apocalypse and decides to use a boomstick to do himself in. But right before he's able to do the world a kindness for once, just like a random Mabella Danger picture finding you while you're doom scrolling on Twitter after a shitty day, Edmund's self-deletion gets interrupted by Cross Volume 3 Psychopath's very own Harold Laurie. He gives Edmund a pretty good Palpatine speech before way too easily talking him into having a 2-on-1 handicap match with Nicole's dead body. 2002 Kane would be proud. With all that I just mentioned, I wouldn't blame you for assuming that Yellow Belly must be just as disgustingly disturbing as David LaFamme's earlier crossed work. But thankfully, that is not the case. Instead of focusing mostly on gore, violence, and shock over telling a decent story like he did in his previous Cross comics, David finally made the smart decision to simply blend those things into the story. So while Yellow Belly does have disturbing material, it's not as disturbing as you might expect it to be due to David not putting that much emphasis on it. If we look at how much space is used throughout the whole volume to show all of the 6 scenarios that I just mentioned, it surprisingly all adds up to just over a page of, by Cross standards, not so graphic images. In conclusion, Cross Badlands Volume 3 Yellow Belly was, like Volume 2 before it, a welcome surprise. Even more so considering that David's previous Cross contributions, Original Series Volume 2 and 3, are 2 of the worst comics that I've ever read in my entire life. Thankfully, and finally, with Yellow Belly, it seems that he's learned from his mistakes. Yellow Belly's main character, Edmund, stays true to his call name, but never insufferably so, and the story benefits from David restraining from his usual exhausting amounts of gory violence. While I'm sure that this creative decision didn't sit well with his core edgelord fanbase, I welcomed it with open arms. It's 4 fast-paced issues of thrills, kills, laughs, and just enough brain to let you know that David put actual effort into writing the story this time around. Ultimately, it's not up there with Original Series Volume 1 or Badlands Volume 2, but it is a simple and plain, good crossed comic. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when I upload next. This has been Fraser Talks, and I'll see you all next time. God bless.
Centers bring a multitude of connecting circuits, directly linking thousands of towns and cities, large and small, throughout our country, with this vast, ultra-modern automatic telegraph system, the finest, fastest in the world.